Welcome back. Today we're continuing work on the R9. We're going to start by tuning the engine cylinder by cylinder. This allows us to identify and correct any differences in the air-fuel ratio between the individual cylinders. A friend of ours welded a sensor bung into each individual header pipe, as you can see here. Right now I'm installing the wideband AFR sensor into the header pipe for cylinder 1. We'll begin by tuning the IAP maps, which mainly control the lower speed and cruising areas. Once those are dialed in, we'll move on to the TPS maps and tune the higher load areas of the engine. In the meantime, we also received and installed the Gilles rear sets. We've set them up with a GP style shift pattern, as this works best for track riding and allows for smoother, more precise upshifts while accelerating out of corners. We've also made a few modifications to the airbox. We installed an MWR air filter and added an air scoop underneath it to guide the airflow more smoothly and efficiently through the airbox. Another experimental modification is the spacer ring underneath the airbox lid. The spacer raises the lid by 1 cm. Because the standard airbox lid slopes downwards, the lower 3 stacks have very limited clearance above them, creating a restriction. By raising the lid, we create more space around these stacks, which should allow them to draw in more air, especially at higher RPM, when airflow demand is at its high. Here I'm warming up the engine before we start tuning the TPS maps for the higher load areas. On this bike, the TPS maps become active from around 10% throttle opening. I left the IAP tuning out of the video because it's a very slow and repetitive process, and honestly, it isn't particularly exciting to watch. We tuned the TPS maps using step tests, starting at 4,000 revolutions per minute. These tests always sound extremely intense, but the engine can handle them without any problems, as long as we keep it properly cooled and give it enough time to cool down between runs. During each test, we measure the air-fuel ratio at different throttle positions and engine speeds. This shows us exactly how each cylinder is running throughout the entire rev range. Even on the same engine, there can be noticeable differences between the cylinders. These can be caused by airflow distribution inside the airbox, the position of the velocity stacks, small differences in injector flow, exhaust flow, combustion chamber temperatures, and normal manufacturing tolerances. By measuring and tuning each cylinder individually, we can compensate for these differences and achieve a much more consistent air-fuel ratio across the entire engine. As you can hear, the engine is working hard during these step tests. The dyno applies load through its brake, holding the engine at specific RPM points instead of allowing it to accelerate through the rev range too quickly. This gives the Woolwich software enough time to collect and log accurate data at each RPM and throttle position. My dad comes over to make sure the engine isn't overheating and that I'm keeping a close eye on the temperatures. He always reminds us to be careful during these tests and to give the engine enough time to cool down. After tuning all 3 cylinders individually, this is where we ended up. Almost 129 horsepower and 99 Newton meters of torque. That makes this the most powerful R9 with a stock, unopened engine that I've seen so far. We're extremely proud of this result. The next modifications will involve opening up the engine and making internal upgrades, but for now we're very happy. Especially when you look at how smooth the power and torque curves are on the final run. This graph shows the completely standard bike compared with our modifications and custom tuning. In total, we gained around 10 horsepower and 10 Newton meters of torque. That's a result we're very pleased with. And it clearly shows that our variable velocity stacks are doing their job. We've also received quite a few questions from people interested in these stacks, so we're hoping to make them available for sale this winter. With that, the R9 is now fully prepared for the circuit. This Sunday, August 30th, we'll be taking it to Mettet in Belgium for its first track day. That will be the real test to see how all these modifications perform on track. If you're at Mettet as well, feel free to come over and say hello. Thanks for watching, and we hope you enjoyed following the R9's preparation. Be sure to subscribe for more updates, and we'll see you in the next video.